So many people ask me the same question about rentals in Watkins Glen that I decided to make a video. Many people come to Watkins Glen and Seneca Lake in beautiful upstate New York. They enjoy the wineries, maybe they go to the racetrack, they enjoy the water, and then they think, oh my gosh, maybe we should buy a property here and have our own Airbnb. And then we can stay in it some of the time and rent it out because the demand around Seneca Lake is huge for Airbnbs, right? Well, that's what this video is all about. Watkins Glen is a village. There's actually two townships. There's the town of Reading and the town of Dix, but it's all the village of Watkins Glen, and it's right at the southernmost tip of Seneca Lake in Schuyler County. Watkins Glen had a lot of hotels that were getting very fully booked up. Then when the Airbnb phenomenon took off, probably the 1990s, early 2000s, and then especially in the past 15 to 20 years, Airbnbs everywhere has exploded, right? Well, so what happened was there was a moratorium. No more Airbnbs, short-term rentals were allowed in the village of Watkins Glen. And many people today still refer to the Airbnb moratorium on short-term rentals. And yet, when I talked to the code officer just recently, this is what he said. Go to your web browser and type in Watkins Glen, New York Village. That will bring up this website, watkinsglen.us. Next, go to the Departments tab, and the very first thing to click on is called Building, Planning, Zoning. This brings up the page which has the most detailed and up-to-date information on short-term rentals in the village. This screen shows the address, phone number, and email of the code enforcement officer, and right now there's only one. His name is Scott Cole, and that's his photo. Super nice guy. There's a list of supporting documents here. They're all in PDF format, and they're all hyperlinks. Go to the second to the last PDF tab under supporting documents, click on that, and you will download a PDF. It's called the Village of Watkins Glen Zoning Law. Go to the table of contents and scroll down to section 23.17. 23.17 is about short-term rentals. The purpose is the Village of Watkins Glen is proud to be a community that welcomes visitors while maintaining availability of permanent housing stock for residents and a high quality of life. The backbone of our village is our residential neighborhoods, and the overconcentration of short-term rentals may cause disruption to the peace, quiet, and enjoyment of people that call Watkins Glen home. In order to respect the property rights and interests of all homeowners and long-term renters in the village, the following requirements seek to achieve a balance between those who wish to offer their homes and properties as short-term rentals and those who choose not to. A short-term rental is defined as the use of a property for the rental or lease of any dwelling or dwelling unit or part thereof to any person, group, or entity for a period of not more than 30 consecutive nights. In other words, if it's less than 30 consecutive nights, that's considered a short-term rental. Motels, hotels, inns, and bed and breakfasts are excluded from this definition. Section C, permit required. Prior to establishing short-term rentals, the operator shall obtain a special use permit in accordance with Article 47 of this zoning law, except as otherwise provided in Section 4 thereof. Written consent from the property owner shall be required as part of the special use permit application materials. Number 2, a special use permit shall be required for each individual dwelling unit intended to be used for short-term rental purposes, regardless of building or property configuration. For example, a 3-family home where all 3 dwelling units are proposed to operate as short-term rentals shall require the issuance of 3 separate permits. A special use permit for a short-term rental shall be valid for a period of 24 months from the date of issue and must be renewed prior to expiration for the property to be continued to be used for such purposes. So in other words, it's good for 2 years and don't let it expire. Applications for a short-term rental that are not renewals or based on an operating permit previously issued shall be considered on a first-come, first-served basis, to the extent that such applications exceed the number of available short-term rentals. In other words, there's a limited availability of short-term rentals that are allowed to be permitted for use, and then there's a waiting list. A special use permit issued for a short-term rental operation is not transferable to a new owner. That means if you sell the house, that permit does not convey. No special use permit for a short-term rental operation shall be issued for any owners that have had a permit revoked for such use within the past 24 months. Short-term rental owners found to be in violation with this zoning law, with or without a permit, shall lose eligibility to apply for a permit for up to 4 years. No short-term rental operations shall be allowed on any property that is in violation of the zoning law or the New York State Building Code. To prevent overconcentration of short-term rentals in the village, a cap is placed on the number allowed. So just aside here, according to the code enforcement officer, Scott Cole, that number is around 67 or 68. He wasn't quite sure. And then there's a waiting list right now of about 20 people waiting to get on. And how do they determine that cap? The cap on short-term rentals in the Village of Watkins Glen has been established as 8% of the total residential number of units in the village. So what they did was they took the number of homes in the village, found 8%, and that's the number. The total allowed short-term rental permits will be revised on an annual basis starting January 1st of each year to reflect changes in the total number of residential units. Section E is about being on the waiting list. I won't go into the details about the waiting list, but I was told by Scott Cole that there is about 67 or 68 people who are allowed to have short-term rentals within the village. And then there's a waiting list of about 20 people. And I said, how fast does the waiting list move? And he said, well, last year they had five people fell off the list and 5 on the waiting list were allowed in. But then the following year it was 0. We really don't know how fast that list is going to move up. So in conclusion, there is a restriction on short-term rentals within the Village of Watkins Glen. One of the workarounds, if you're absolutely in love with a house within the village, is month-to-month rentals, 30 days or more. That's perfectly allowable. And you still can use sites like AirBnB or VRBO. You just have to put the settings on at least 1 month. Another workaround is to simply buy a property that's not in the Village of Watkins Glen, yet still close to beautiful Seneca Lake, up the east side or the west. However, just be aware that there are a lot of people with the same idea, and it's becoming somewhat saturated. Have a good day, and keep in mind, if you need a real estate agent to help you buy or sell on Seneca Lake, that's what I do, and that's why I do these videos. Please like and subscribe to my videos. Thanks for watching.